Working hard at joy. What if work requires less effort and more imagination? Where does the time go? I have been thinking about that a lot lately. And how will I use my time? More than how I will use it, how will I experience my life? We all get the same 24-hour periods. And in the past 24 hours, someone has used it to paint the Eiffel Tower. Someone else has birthed a baby into the world, and yet someone else has closed a business deal that's made them a life-changing amount of money. And someone else has taken a much-needed break and binged their favorite Netflix show. It's all the same amount of time. We all get 24 hours in a day. And if you stack up those days, we have 365 of them a year. That's it. So friends, what do you want to do with those days? And more than that, how do you want to experience that time? I've always been someone who has worked hard. On both sides of my family, I come from a long lineage of people who worked hard. Long hours, multiple jobs, manual labor. This is where I come from. And that was instilled in me, working hard. And for that, I am forever grateful because it made me who I am. It has given me the relentless work ethic that I have today. But a couple of years ago, I started asking some hard questions of myself, like, could I work on my dreams effectively without it being hard, without efforting? Could I rewrite my own expectations and shift my own experience of my professional life from work to something more like creation? And in that shift, could I interject more joy into the experience? It caused me to ask this crazy question. When was the last time you let yourself color outside the lines? Back up. When was the last time you let yourself color? Period. As children, we're both given and give ourselves the permission to play. We can adventure to new places, no matter how ordinary they seem. We create new worlds and stories in our imagination, and without the concern of how time is passing during the day. We allow ourselves to be a pirate one day and a pilot the next, without considering our aptitudes or the profitability of our choice. We step into doing things we've never done with confidence and little consideration for the risk of embarrassment or failure. We color. We sit down at the table with a blank page and we choose colors that spark joy and bring to life on the page what we have in our mind's eye. And then we risk it all by putting form to our dreams. It's not perfect, and sometimes it's not even good, but it is our creation and reflects the uniqueness of who we are. And we're proud because we made it. When you look up the root word of the word play, you find a lot of references to the word toy, which got me thinking. I wonder if I approached even some of my life more like play than what would it mean for things that I look at right now as burdens and responsibilities. Would they really just be my toys? Where will I make my home? What will the rhythm of my life be? How will I ever build the community that I desire? How will I design and orient a life around love? What will my purpose look like for me professionally? These are daunting questions that we're all asking ourselves. But what if instead of those things haunting me, like a cartoon version of a ball and chain around my neck, and me standing at the edge of the ship, ready to be flung into the sea? What if instead they were the toys in my safe and free backyard, where anything is possible and I couldn't fail enough to never let me go back inside at the end of the day? What would change about how I approach these areas of meaning making in my life? Likely, 3 core things would change. Number 1, I'd risk much more with much less. I calculate risk a lot. I feel this high degree of responsibility in every area of my life, which often exhibits itself as over responsibility, which is a topic for a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But the truth is, I don't make decisions flippantly. I mull and research and analyze. I make that pro and con list, run the numbers, talk to experts, check in with my intuition, and check the market. Basically, I drive myself crazy with the amount of input and analysis that I put into every decision that I make, because I desperately don't want to get it wrong. I want my life to be safe and stable and successful. And one misstep, and I'm really worried that it could all fall apart. So I take the approach of measure twice and cut once, but to the most extreme place possible. Now, this has upside. It means I move with care and intention, that when I commit to something, it is deliberate for the right reasons and for the long term. But there are also downsides. It means a lot of wasted time, paralysis, and frankly, sucking the joy out of stepping boldly into new seasons that I know deep down are right for me, long before the results of my analysis are in. If I allowed myself to play, I'd risk much more with much less. I'd listen to my inner voice that's usually trying to scream the right next step to my logical mind, and I'd follow it to the next part of my journey and trust that my life isn't going to completely fall apart by making this one decision. Because time has taught me that I am both reliable and wise, and I'd trust that more. Number 2, I wouldn't settle for anything less than exuberant joy. So often I settle for fine. I pass on dessert. I choose the clothes that are on discount because I can't bring myself to spend the extra money. I go the shortest way home instead of the most scenic. I rush through conversations that I'm really enjoying because I need to move on to the next thing. I generally settle for a life full of experiences that only get to about 80% of the joy that I actually expect and desire. And then I find myself pretty resentful. I lay down at the end of the day and kick myself for wasting these precious hours and not having the courage to just ask for what I want and give myself more time with the people and things that I enjoy, and to say a hard no to anything that doesn't meet this audacious standard of exuberant joy. When I was little, I was over the top. I would wear dresses and hats and gloves and frilly socks and my best shoes as often as I could. I'd spend hours making cupcakes and sandwiches and set up the perfect tea party under the magnolia tree at my grandmother's house. I would sit out there on a blanket, basking in the sun, just imagining myself as a princess who was having the most perfect tea party in her garden. I didn't skimp or rush through any part of it. I squeezed the joy out of every moment. Not for any other reason, but that it just brought me a lot of happiness. I wonder if I allowed myself to bring that attitude to more of my work projects or how I interacted with my dearest friends, how much more fulfilling my life would be. And number 3, I'd keep after it. Remember building your first fort? Mine was kind of lame, to be honest. It had a dirt floor and some flimsy sides made out of a tarp draped over a low-hanging tree branch in our backyard. When I was done with it, I was pretty dissatisfied. I remember going in at the end of the night and spending a lot of time thinking, why wasn't this making me as happy as I expected it would? So if adult Abby were analyzing that situation, I'd probably conclude that making forts is dumb and a waste of time, and I'm a horrible fort maker. Clearly, it's not my strength, I failed, and I should just move on to something else. But little Abby didn't have all of those limiting beliefs swirling around her lizard brain yet. Instead, she just imagined a picture of herself happy in the fort. What would it look like? What would be in it? How could she make it that way? And it all suddenly came to me. It needed a soft floor like an old quilt. It needed pillows so there was a place to nap. It needed toys and a little place for my dog to snuggle with me. The outside needed twinkle lights and flowers and a couple of chairs for visitors. So when I get up the next morning, I spent the whole day improving that fort, and it turned out better than I dreamt the night before. How many things have I walked away from in my adult life because I told myself that I couldn't after just one try? How many times have I labeled myself not good enough or a failure because I didn't perform to my own unrealistic standards on the first attempt? What if I gave myself more grace, more permission to play, more opportunities to create and build and be something new, someone else? More coloring outside the lines, more doing it for the purpose of joy, not profitability. More trusting myself instead of letting fear run the show. More being proud of myself for doing, trying, and just putting some color on the page. Not because it's perfect, but because I made it, and that means it's good. So what will your experience of 2024 be like? Whatever it is, I hope you allow yourself to move beyond effort and transform hard work into joyful leverage where creativity, play, and imagination rewrites your story this year.